everybody. Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast. It's part of the More You Know's podcast network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, with Rod, and with Chris. Chris, a little under the weather this week. You doing okay, bud?
I'm doing great. Let me tell you, that was a fantastic Raw we had this week, and I got another take that I am upset with the WWE for, and I think we need to do some changes here. You know, we have yet to see any kind of real investigation to things I've brought up in the past, and I'm kind of upset with that. And I think what needs to happen with the WWE is they need to get into the 21st century, okay? Like, I'm an old man, and even I realize this. What we need, gentlemen, is VAR in the WWE. All right. No more of these shenanigans that go unnoticed by refs or whatnot. I think wrestlers should get a challenge. Let's get VAR in there. Let's change some stuff up.
I just Rod is mute right now because he can't even handle this, Chris. You just came out firing. I love it.
I can tell you that I could have gone another 500 years on this planet and never once thought about applying the genius of a video challenge replay to sports entertainment. I give our guy, the old man, a hard time an awful lot. I do that, frankly, just for the love of the game and the bit, because I think listeners enjoy it. I truly love this man, and I think he's one of the more intelligent people that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. This may be the best idea he's ever had, Jimmy. I don't see any way I can pick this apart.
Oh, there's no way at all you can pick it apart, because having replay in wrestling would definitely work all the time and would really help with all of their storylines they have. So, Chris, talk to me a little bit about this. How would you implement this in wrestling? And then I have some questions.
I think a wrestler gets a challenge. Okay. I think if someone gets hit with the chair, or if somebody does something with some brass knuckles, I mean, there should be a challenge. And then you guys can work it out. Like if it needs to be,
you guys work it out. There's a challenge. You guys go work it out.
You know, if it's a manager that also has to challenge it, if a guy becomes incapacitated, you know, but there needs to be at least like one challenge per guy. If you're successful, maybe you get another one.
No, wait a minute.
Maybe you can challenge. Maybe you can challenge the 3 count. Is the 3 count too slow? Is it too fast?
Listen, I don't want to be against what we can and can't challenge here, but what I want to be cautious of as we get started down this road, okay, is not every wrestler has a valet, right? So, Chris, I think we've got to rest the power with the wrestler, right? Because it's not fair to somebody like our guy, LA Knight, who comes down to the ring with no manager, no real friends, right? He's got to be able to call an actual video assisted replay as well. So I don't want it to be rested with the manager. And here's what else we're guarding against. We have too many managers that turn on their wrestler, right? So we can't have the power rest just with the valet. It has to
then they don't ask for the replay. That's easy, right, Chris?
Yeah. So it can be both. Like this expands so many different storylines. It can also increase the length of feuds. Wrestler comes out, gets pins, challenges that call at the end of the match. All of a sudden, that match is null and void. We have a rematch, maybe at a premium live event from a SmackDown match.
So wait, is the challenge if it's a null and void, or you just restart the match? And Chris, how long after the match is over can we challenge a play?
Listen, we are about
the host. This is why you're the host of the wrestling podcast, Jimmy.
Are we not in? Is this not drama for us? Do we not want more arguments, more fighting? Like, what creates more discussion and angst among people than arguing over replays? We do it all the time in every other sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, cricket. It goes on and on and on. Even with the VARs, there's still angst among everybody involved. It does nothing but propel more drama into what we already have.
Chris, I don't want you to lie to me. I want you to tell me the truth. Do you have any idea if they actually do replay in cricket?
Yes, they do. Because you have to catch the ball in air, and you better not land outside that outfield circle, because if you land when the ball is in your hand, that is then a home run essentially for the other team. So you have to catch it. And if you're going to land outside, you better throw that ball back inside the white line so somebody else can catch it.
So, Chris,
Jimmy, wait a minute. I got two things.
The cricket, I mean, what's going on here?
Chris
Yeah.
have me until he said cricket. Okay. When Chris said cricket does this, I immediately said we're in, because if there's one governing principle I've always had, it is that the WWE has to be better than cricket. All right. So if cricket is willing to do this, we have to do it. And I'm going to put my vote in right now for I don't want the contest to become null and void. If a challenge is called and overturned, I want it to be immediately redone in the moment. Boom. Right. So it's kind of like Money in the Bank. You can get a benefit from coming in at the end of a match and Money in the Bank benefiting you when a guy is tired, just like you can call in a video replay. And if a guy screws you on a 1-2-3 count that wasn't supposed to happen, he's now at a disadvantage because you won the replay and we're going right back at it.
I think that's a great idea, except for a situation where maybe you have a guy that's knocked out and
Well, that
can't
was my
immediately
question. What's going on here? Like the
it
guy's
can't
knocked out.
immediately do that. Last match of a Raw, it ends. We go to the next show on USA, right? If that guy is knocked out, can't get up, the show's ending. How can you then do that replay?
Bingo. Yeah. Also, see, has to be that night, right? Chris, are you with me on this? The challenge has to be that night. We can't be doing challenges the next day or a week later. We can't have any of that garbage, right?
I think.
Oh no.
I think you're right, Rod. Except for at premium live events, I think at premium live events you should be allowed to challenge after the fact.
That's good because you want the viewers on the night after, right? For the folks that didn't tune in. So that's good. I'll go with you there. We'll make an exception for premium live events, kind of like they do for the Prime logo, right, Jim? We don't have the Prime logo in the ring for regular Raw and SmackDown, but premium live events, we give Logan Paul some more money.
So Cody Rhodes finishes his story. It's the greatest moment in WrestleMania in the past 20 years. Monday Night Raw comes. Roman Reigns walks out, drops the challenge flag. The referee overturns it, and everything is null and void.
No, go the other way, Jim.
You love anarchy.
No, go the other way, Jim. Think about how angry you were after Cody didn't finish the story at WrestleMania in LA, right? And think about how contentious it was when Roman came out with the belt still holding on the Raw after WrestleMania at WrestleMania LA, right? How bad was that? How popped would that crowd have been that night if Cody came out and threw the challenge flag and said, hey, this is garbage. You guys didn't see Solo Sikoa coming up over here and cracking me in the throat with the Samoan spike. I demand a rematch, and he wins the title that night. That place explodes, Jimmy. Think about it that way.
Drew McIntyre, Clash of the Castle. Next night, throws down the challenge flag. Same thing.
So the next night in New York, he gets a huge ovation that he wouldn't have gotten it in Clash of the Castle. For those of you watching on YouTube, listening on X, Facebook, anything like that, give us your comments. Do you want replay in wrestling? And I will ask this:
like
what
people
is the
who
one
are viewing
thing
right now? They may have seen the best 8 minutes this podcast ever had.
What is the one thing everyone loves more than anything in the NBA, in the Major League Baseball, in the NFL, and in cricket? They love a good 5-minute stoppage for replay. Can you imagine the replay officials? Then you go back to the booth. Who are those replay officials? Adam Pearce? You have issues with Adam Pearce, Chris.
They have nothing but officials backstage, all right? We see 18 of them run. We see 18 officials run out every week to stop somebody from beating up somebody on the side.
It can't go backstage. It has to go to Stanford. There has to be other guys in a room at Stanford. It can't go backstage because the backstage guys could get compromised, right? Wrestlers are in the same arena as them. They could get compromised back there. It has to go to Stanford.
Let him be compromised. Let it. That's just an extra level to storytelling right there, Rod.
This is the greatest. This is the greatest and the dumbest idea we've ever done on the show. So we're doing replay in wrestling. We've got Almost in the back standing over the replay official who's 5'3", 98 pounds, soaking wet with boots on. Shout out to Heenan there. Just looking at him, you're gonna overturn that. You're gonna overturn that. You're gonna overturn. Yeah, that would be that.
Well, who's Omos overturning the thing for? MVP's coming back to wrestle all the sudden. What's Omos?
I picked a big guy. Hey man, he's got to be a valet now because we need all these valets to go for the wrestlers.
I love
MVP as a valet, but we haven't seen him.
I can guarantee you, Braun Breaker would be standing over an official, daring him like that.
Braun Breaker, and I'm going to get to what Rod's hot about because we know what Chris is hot about. But Braun Breaker did one of the most amazing moves I've seen in wrestling when he jumps to the top rope, does a free flying, floating, whatever you want to call it, Frankensteiner and didn't miss a beat, then hit a spear and almost killed a man. That was amazing. Braun Breaker should be probably winning the Royal Rumble this year. He's not going to, but he probably should be.
He's definitely a superstar in the making, right? Like we're
I think
seeing
he's a
it.
superstar now, Rod.
Winning the Rumble already, Jimmy. Listen, you more
Let's
than
go.
anybody else on this podcast comes on here and tells us, let's apply the brakes, right? The idea here is we want lots of stories. We want lots of years.
Mhm.
Why are we rushing Braun Breaker to Rumble champion next year? Cody
They
just
need
won it
youth.
2 years in a row.
Yeah. Well, he needs to stop. Can't win it again if he's champ still, right?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Finish the Story saying Cody can't win the Rumble again. Love to hear it out of you.
He's going to win the Rumble again as champion, Rod. Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
He's going to lose the belt here soon. So we're going to need to climb him back up to the top, Jimmy.
Okay. Rod, what are you hot about today?
Here's what I'm hot about. I'm hot about the absolute fact that Cody Rhodes is our champion. I love that you led me right there, Jimmy. I'm hot about our champion doesn't matter. You guys used to come on this podcast and complain about Roman Reigns not being around. But do you know what Roman Reigns did even when he wasn't around? Mattered. Cody Rhodes shows up all the time and it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I don't see him as the champion. I still just see him as the baby face that the crowd absolutely loves. I see no story down the road other than, okay, fine, he's going to battle with Randy Orton. But you know, the only reason the Randy Orton story is cool with Cody Rhodes is because Randy Orton's cool. And he's been around the WWE for 25 years and he can make anybody work with almost anything. And he's done it with hundreds of guys at this point in his career. So fine. Cody Rhodes, you completed your story. Great. Good for you. You're a baby face. You're giving belts to the kids. The kids love you. They want your autograph cards. They want your autograph posters. I'm not immune to the business aspect of it, but as the older side of the WWE, I care nothing about Cody Rhodes. And I constantly warned the both of you that really, do we really, really want Cody Rhodes as champion? Because I had a lot more fun when it was Roman Reigns.
Okay, Chris.
So I am the exact opposite of Rod on this one.
Shocking.
I didn't care about Roman Reigns. He never showed up. And when he did show up for a premium live event, we know he was going to win because he had his goons winning the match for him. All right. Cody shows up every week. He wrestles, Rod. He does work. He's out there working weekly. Listen, I get where you're coming from.
Suit. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me respond one by one. So Cody in a suit coming out and talking to you is better than Roman just not being there.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Cody wrestle as a champion more this year than I did Roman in the last 12 months.
Would you say, though, that you saw Cody fight way more when he was leading up to becoming champion than you have since he's won the belt? Would you agree to that?
Yeah, probably, but that's pretty close to just about everybody with every belt. Once you get a belt on there, you don't quite wrestle as much, but you should wrestle more than every fourth premium live event. And Cody's doing that.
Yeah, so I think that we just, again, we need that foil for Cody Rhodes. AJ Styles did a good job in his Mark Henry little retirement angle that everyone knew was kind of fake. But no one believes he's going to beat Cody. And I think that's the issue we have right now. We kind of ran into that with Roman Reigns at the end. You did have, though, your Sammys, you did have your Drew McIntyres, and you did have your Cody Rhodes at last year's WrestleMania, where you thought it was actually going to happen. We're not there yet. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, you actually think that might happen. I think we're going to get a little bit better on that, Rod. I see where you're coming from for sure, but I like the white meat babyface right now. I love the fact that people are still cheering him. They're singing his song. I do love that a lot. Let's keep the story going and see what's going on. Pump the brakes, Rod. Pump the brakes.
I do think that they missed an opportunity, though. I think Solo should have been the first feud for Cody after getting the belt. Why don't we see Solo wrestle anymore? I get he's head of the bloodline, but
that's why.
But he's not been in. But that's ridiculous to me. Okay, Solo isn't some guy that's put in the work. You guys would tell me like, no, Roman's been here. He's done this. He's survived cancer. He's came back. He's done all this stuff. All right, so I need to see Solo. To me, I knew this was going to happen. I've been saying it for a while, but I needed to see him wrestle. I thought that feud was going to happen, and I kind of upset that it didn't. I think that would have kept the bloodline more involved for me and would have made Cody's story still a little bit more compelling.
But I learned this from Jimmy, right? If he loses, do you then really buy into Solo as a guy who's trying to re-lead the bloodline, right? Like at this point, at least he hasn't lost, right? Like we don't buy that he's in a suit and we don't like him, but at least nobody can immediately say, well, this guy, screw this guy. He just lost to Cody Rhodes and he lost to Seth Rollins or whoever else he may have been fighting, right? At this point, we could say, okay, I buy Solo stepping up and being the power player in the bloodline because he hasn't lost. The minute he lost, that storyline's dead, right, Jim? That's the reason he hasn't wrestled anybody, isn't it?
Yeah, this is kind of like DX when Triple H came out after WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels was basically retired after that. You have to kind of build him up again. But I do agree that we need to see Solo win a lot. We need to see Solo be dominant a lot because he had lost a lot before that WrestleMania. And he just needs to build it up. So I do agree he needs to build it up, Chris. We have to build it up so then it does seem a little bit more special instead of just continuing that storyline. Pardon the pun with that. But the bloodline thing was kind of over at that point with Cody. We needed to kind of move on to something else for the champion to then circle back, because then when we circle back, then you have Roman involved, you have other things going on. So I
was
like
gonna
where
say, Jimmy,
you're
are
going,
we gonna are we gonna prime Chris's readiness for where we're heading? I believe at War Games at this point. Are we gonna prime Chris and get him ready for this? Chris, I think where we're headed at War Games is a bloodline versus bloodline. You're gonna have Solo and his two guys, and maybe somebody else are gonna be the essential bad bloodline. And Roman is going to come back with The Rock and maybe a couple of other people, and Jimmy and Jey Uso, and they will be the good bloodline. I think that's where we're headed, Chris. Will you buy that?
Chris hates that with a passion.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Bloodline on bloodline violence.
And I guess I should care more. Like, listen, since I came back, Bloodline has been at the top of the WWE, right? Like, I should care, but I don't for whatever reason. Part of it is I'm sick of Yeats or no Yeats. You know, I'm not big on Jey or Jimmy Uso. You know, and
you're the one guy.
I don't know what they're doing with Tonga and Tuilovogoa or whatever their names are.
That's their name.
I just don't get it. I would not be into that at War Games. Give me something more like Cody and like Seth and like that group versus like Drew and Randy Orton and a group like that. Like, give me something like that more, or give me like somebody versus whatever the Judgment Day is going to be. That could be it. It could be a Judgment Day versus Judgment Day. If Liv is going to take over everything that Rhea had, it could be a Judgment Day versus Judgment Day.
You know she's not going to do that.
Interesting. Let's go to that. Let's go to that right now, because that's going to be fun to talk about too. If this does not end, somebody already said a little version of this, but Dominic Mysterio on a pole match, I'm done. This is ridiculous. This is terrific. Liv Morgan's a star. Rod, your girl. Look at you picking all the stars in the women's division. Rhea Ripley, you've been on since day one. Liv Morgan, you were on since before day one.
Now, listen, in my defense, that probably has a lot to do with my name's Morgan, her name's Morgan, of course.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was just giving you
yeah. But it also has an awful lot to do with the absolutely phenomenal opening to our podcast last week, Jimmy, where you asked Chris the wonderful question about if you had a chance to kiss someone, and he cut you off before the end of it and answered Liv Morgan before you even had the other chance. That might have a little bit of something to do with this here. But yeah, no, Jimmy, I leave the New Japan and independent wrestling and feuds that guys have had with one another. That's your department, right? That's what you do, right? What I do is I make fun of fashion choices and I talk about charisma, right? I have two things that I'm consistent with constantly when we're talking about guys in the professional wrestling game that we love. I talk about their outfit choices and I talk about charisma. Liv Morgan has great outfit choices. She has great charisma. And we have not been this excited in a WWE relationship since what? I mean, we're like Rusev and Lana, maybe, Jimmy? Or are we going even further back than that where like people really cared this much?
Miss Elizabeth.
Hey, that is the gold standard.
I mean, that's the OG, Chris, for sure. But I think we've had something since then because we've had a lot of things.
I missed a lot.
I think Rusev and Lana, I think, was something that was huge in that as well. But they're just doing everything right now, and it's terrific. And the pop that Rhea Ripley is going to get when she comes back and or it's going to be something back.
People are
I
so
don't know.
confused by Liv too, Jimmy. That's what I love. People don't know if they want to boo her or cheer her, right? But you can tell that people are just excited when she hits the arena now, and that's really where you want to be.
Right. And
It
I
is.
hope when Rhea comes back, they don't announce it beforehand. It needs to be a surprise.
Oh, it's going to definitely be a surprise, and it's one of those things. You want it to be in front of the live audience, but how cool would that be if Liv and Dom are doing something in the backstage area, and all of a sudden you just see Rhea turn the corner, or Rhea's face come up, or just Rhea in the background walking in, something like that. I think would be pretty cool too. I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to be pretty cool.
Dominic Mysterio came out in a prison van at WrestleMania 39. Okay. And here we are all these years later, and we are to believe that the two most powerful women currently in the WWE roster, all right, because don't think that I haven't forgot about my girl Charlotte Flair, and don't think I haven't forgot about the man Becky Lynch, who currently is not on the WWE roster. And yes, I understand Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair
Yes,
are on the
Blair,
roster,
yeah.
but I'm still saying that Liv and Rhea are the two most powerful out there. They are fighting over Dominic Mysterio, Jimmy. Dominic Mysterio, a guy who basically used to wear what looked to be almost like like one of those costumes you can get for your kid at Halloween. That's like a skeleton costume. Dom Mysterio used to wear that. Is Rey Mysterio's son. They were forced the tag team belts. All of us didn't give a crap, and now look at where we're at. Liv Morgan, one of the most desirable women on the WWE roster. We're supposed to believe she wants to take Dom Mysterio from Rhea Ripley, one of the other most desirable women on the WWE roster. Chef's kiss to Dom.
I'm buying every drop of it. Like, I take my money. I love every bit of this. I'm still in awe that Dom has been able to do this turn as well as he's doing it. Like, I know he fell off our heat list, right? But damn, it's like he listened to us and got pissed, and he's like, "Hold my beer," and then he's showing us what's up.
I love it. I love it. One more thing before we go on this portion of the show. Clash at the Castle coming up in about 2 weeks now.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I know where you're going, and I'm not going to let you get there. You can close the show with that. But we're going to talk about my guy Otis and Chad Gable and Maxine and Sami Zayn. All right, because that is the example of a segment, Jimmy, that you talk about so often. I'm doing this to give you your props here, Jimmy. This is a segment that's only possible with long-term storytelling. Okay. Otis and Chad Gable have been together for how long as the Alpha Academy? All right. Yeah. We brought in Tozawa. We brought in Maxine. We've had Chad Gable as the corn-fed American Olympian, does everything right. I'm a good trainer. You should want to be like me. And now all of a sudden we have this turn. And here's a guy, Otis, who no one cares about at all. One of the biggest pops and one of the best Raws we've had in weeks. And again, I'm agreeing with our guy Chris here. One of the biggest pops on one of the biggest Raws we've had in weeks was for Otis when he stood up to Chad Gable. Jimmy, you have got to do applause to the storytelling these guys have going on right now, because these are the definition of mid-carders other than Sami Zayn, and they are elevating the material they are given.
It happens when you remember storylines. You don't think your audience are idiots, and you don't change your mind all the time. This would have never happened 5 years ago. And it's just, we're setting it up so Chad Gable as Intercontinental Champion does make sense. A heel Chad Gable, Chris.
Yeah, I'm for it. Listen, I cannot wait for this Otis Gable match that we're going to have. It'll be fantastic. I'll love that. I will enjoy Gable as a heel Intercontinental Champion. I think that makes it more important than what it is right now on Sammy. I really do.
So we just like bad guys having the belts. Also, I'm sorry, Chris, you're not going to get that Otis and Chad Gable match anytime soon.
I can still hope.
Otis is going to be a bad guy with Chad Gable. I love you, but he's going to be a bad guy with Chad Gable. Yeah. I love you.
We had our chance, Chris. We had our chance. When we saw him follow through with the laying out Sammy, that's when I knew him. You're absolutely right.
You guys have forgotten. We want to talk about long-term storytelling. Have we forgotten about the relationship with Maxine and Otis from the past. Like there is history there. Do you think Otis is going to turn on Maxine?
No, I think they're all turning on Sammy, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think Maxine's contract will just run out at some point and she'll kind of just not be part of the Alpha Academy. It's basically what'll happen with Maxine.
And also, Chris, I Drew McIntyre's not winning at Clash of the Castle either, I don't think.
What are you talking about? Of course he is.
Okay.
WWE owes him this. They screwed him over at the last Clash in the Castle. It's
Just
Drew's
gave him
time.
a very
is
big
Drew's-
contract extension.
It's
They're fine.
Drew's time, all right? It's time to put that gold around Drew's belt for longer than 5 minutes, all right? We don't need Damian Priest to have that belt, all right? We don't necessarily need that. Give it to Drew. He deserves it. It's Drew's time.
Imagine this. Drew McIntyre hits Priest, right? He's down. It's over. CM Punk comes out, distracts Drew McIntyre, because all Drew has been doing this whole time, he even went to WWE headquarters and said, you just need some strong arms to open the doors. That's happening, and it's going to be fantastic, Chris. Rod, I mean, that's going to happen, and it's going to be a great match at SummerSlam. Rod is so excited about my comment.
You're right, Jimmy. A few days ago, I did come to the realization that as much as I was on the train of let's give Drew the belt in Scotland and let's have Drew have a belt when we get to SummerSlam for Gunther and those guys will have another banger, as much as I was, on that train, we're definitely not going to get that now. We are absolutely not going to get that. It's going to be CM Punk. They are going to continue to build this thing, and it's going to be the whole Godfather line for me, Jimmy. Just when I thought I was out on CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, they're going to suck me right back in, and I'm going to be excited as hell for when those dudes finally get together in the ring.
You know what's not smart? Not smart is going to Scotland with a whole bunch of Scots filling up one arena and then pulling a screw job over on their guy in the arena to end that PLE. You did it once before. At least it wasn't in Scotland then, but it was close. This is Scotland now. You might just incur a riot if you don't let Drew win this match. So
that's a good point.
Be careful, WWE.
Soccer matches aren't as intense as this, and it could be a painful ending there. Because Piper Niven ain't beating Bailey either. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, it's a good time. Good time. Well,
Definitely
gentlemen, I really appreciate your time here for the Yeah We Know podcast. Rod, the next show we do, are we going to go right into the fast break? We're going to do a little balls and brew first. What are your thoughts?
There's a sport with some seams that we need to check in on here real soon, but I don't believe we're going to do that just here. I do have a quick question for both of you folks that is basketball related, but it is not NBA related. So I believe I have to be the one to pose this question before we throw it to the fast break to do an NBA finals preview. So let's do balls and brew right here and right now. Rod Morgan, am your host. Jimmy produces this just like he produces every other podcast here on the Morgan Podcasting Network. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching our wrestling show. If you enjoyed our wrestling tapes, perhaps you'll enjoy our sports takes. Yeah. All right. We're going to do football on what we call Balls and Brew later this year. Our guy Josh Williams is going to come back and join us and tell us about all of the wonderful nuggets he puts together when he is making his betting card. So we have wonderful sports information for you. But Jimmy, Chris, I want to ask you guys about the discourse that has occurred in the Women's Basketball Association recently. We have seen a little bit of what some folks want to call rookie hazing, a little bit of what some folks want to say might be racially motivated, a little bit of what some folks want to just say is, well, this is hard play and this is a sports league for professionals, and this person, Caitlin Clark, used to play in a league of amateurs and now she's in professionals, and it just is what it is. Chris, Jimmy, I want to know, where do you guys come down on those three different sides of the Caitlin Clark discourse at the moment? Jimmy, I'll start with you.
So I've seen a lot going around about this, and really I think the WNBA players need to look at the long term, the 30,000-foot view. Caitlin Clark is bringing people to the league, but there's so many different teams and so much good talent that they are going to be seen because of that, and then they can become bigger. I know, I think in Washington they had 19,000 people at a WNBA game recently. That's awesome. But also, like, it's so weird. Is it jealousy? Is it just? I don't understand what's going on with that, because she is bringing eyes in. They have chartered flights now. That's a new thing. Why? Because Caitlin Clark came in. That's one thing there. Oh, they could have all doubled their salaries instead of chartered flights. I bet you they'd take chartered flights in what they did. I will say this, and I'll let Chris go because I know there's a lot of different things going on here. The Indiana Fever are not that good of a basketball team right now. They've also played twice as many games in the same amount of time as a few other teams in the WNBA, just because of Caitlin Clark, because of all this. There's so much money coming in here. Why are we trying to ruin it? We should be talking about the games and not this, whatever you want to call it, Chris.
Okay, so I will start this off by saying I don't really watch the WNBA. All right, so like I can't speak to the games or the product on the court. I did watch the women's basketball tournaments the last couple of years, and here's what I'll say. I get Caitlin Clark is popular, but she didn't win. So to me, that drops her a rung. Like, I'm sorry, that's kind of how I feel. I didn't get why everyone was so up on her so much, all right? Because her teams didn't win. I mean, if you didn't watch the women's college basketball tournament this year and you ask a random person who won, they would say Caitlin Clark won, because that's how the media treated it. So you have this girl coming into a professional league, getting all this attention without winning, and maybe these people feel a little bit jealous. Like, listen, I put in this work. We've done one. Why aren't you guys supporting us? I don't know. That's just me. Maybe that's how it is. This doesn't move the needle that much for me. I think for the WNBA, though, business wise, this can't be anything but great. All right. No matter what controversy is going on, you are in the news, you are in the headlines, you are getting airtime, which does increase your bottom line.
Jimmy, Chris, I'm going to say this here and just admit that this is a difficult conversation to have, but I think if we're trying to be true about the situation we are attempting to examine for our listeners, this has to be pointed out, okay? Isn't this just Larry Bird all over again, Jimmy? Isn't this just the great white hope in a league that is not a huge percentage white, just like the NBA was not a huge percentage white when Larry Bird was coming in and getting new eyeballs and winning MVPs and getting endorsements, and there was a league that was predominantly black that was pushing back against him? Isn't that what's going on here, and that everybody's just afraid to say that? I'll admit that I'm afraid to say that as well, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves in the world that exists in 2024, that's a whole lot of the sauce baked into the cake that, Chris, you're right, and Jimmy, you're right. We can have a couple of different recipes for that cake, but I think there's one thing that everybody is trying to side skirt around when they're talking about the recipe.
I don't know if it comes into as much as what you want it to, or not that you want it to, or as much as people out there want it to, all right? LeBron came into the league, hyped bigger than anything. His high school games are on ESPN. You telling me that LeBron didn't get extra shoves, extra pushes, extra rough treatment that first year he was in the league? I guarantee you he did. All right. Anytime that happens with a player who's getting all this hype, we saw it a little bit this year with Victor.
But Chris, I'll say real quickly, though, when LeBron came into the NBA, there were a lot of other players in the NBA history that got deals similar to his. Sure, LeBron's was the biggest, but there were lots of other guys who had big time shoe deals. And Caitlin Clark has signed the biggest shoe deal in the history of the WNBA by a large margin.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know about the shoe deals. I'm talking about what happens on the court. All right. And how this person is getting treated by their peers on the court and other players. anytime in any sport you have a wonderkind coming up, the next best thing, the people who are already in the leagues want to put that rookie in their place. All right. It happens in every league. Big time rookie quarterback comes out, you know, every defensive end wants a chance just to get a free run at that rookie quarterback and give a little bit of extra on that hit, or that middle linebacker on that new rookie running back. I mean, we see it in the NBA all the time. We saw it a little bit this year with Victor. Everybody was trying to go hard at Victor to begin the year. So I see it all the time. I don't know if this necessarily is only because she's white. And I think it has more to do with how she is getting anointed so early in her career, more so than the color of her skin.
So your analogies would be okay if she was getting hard fouled on drives to the basket, or even hard fouled on a 3-pointer, or maybe someone steps in front of her. She's just standing on the court and someone runs into her and, blindsides her. It's like if Caleb Williams threw a ball, ran out of bounds, and after 3 steps out of bounds, someone came and hit him. Victor Wembanyama didn't get any of that. I think on that one, you're wrong, Chris. People went after him, but they have the ball in their hand and they're going for a dunk, or they're trying to block a shot or something like that. They're not trying to take his knees out. They're not trying to knock him out when the play is 30 feet down the court.
To be fair, the NBA has a lot more history in dealing with violent type fouls on the court, and it has become a lot more strict. The WNBA hasn't had this happen to them as much in the past, so they're not as ready to deal with it like the NBA. So I think the NBA has almost drilled it into the players' heads that that's almost unacceptable, especially lately, because Draymond Green has proved that they come down harsh on people.
I'm good on Draymond Green. He doesn't understand reality sometimes, and yeah, I know I'm a person in a basement that doesn't know anything, and I don't have a ring, but come on, that's yeah, whatever.
Here's the thing. Let's finish here then. Let's go back to the basketball court, because I think the racial issue is thorny, and I just think that we're
no, you're right though.
If we don't at least bring it up. But here's the thing, Chris, how much, again, you want to talk about on the court, and I'm with you there. That's why this question, I think, is totally on the court related. How much responsibility do her teammates bear at this point to try to help support her? How much do we need one of her teammates to go over and lay somebody else out? And if her teammates don't do that, are we to believe that that's some sort of a relationship harbinger?
I mean, yeah, we've seen that in the past, right? If there's a bad teammate, the rest of the team doesn't have their back in situations, and you think, well, there's an issue in the locker room, right? Like we talked about that a lot. What you do want to see is you want to see your team, especially if you're a Fever fan, you want to see your team be as cohesive as possible and have each other's back. So if you're a Fever fan, you want to see her teammates have her back. And if they're not having her back, you need to be worried. That means there are definite issues in that locker room.
Jimmy, you're down there where they do sports talk. I'm sure this is coming up a little bit. Are we hearing any of this down there?
Not on the Bill Simmons podcast. A little bit on that. I think it's a big story nationwide, and people are just throwing their 2 cents in. And I did like Wilbon and Kornheiser's discussion on PTI. If you haven't watched that, they did a lot better than we could do. At this point, they have a couple more years on us. Not too many, but a few. It's a very complex story. And I think we just need to remember that while controversy does create cash, shout out Eric Bischoff, we need to have the players safe and able to play for that cash to be created. Caitlin Clark gets hurt. There's a lot of empty arena, not empty, but not as full arenas moving forward. There is.
A rising tide floats all boats. All right. There is a reason that is a saying that has lasted throughout history for a long time. All right. And I think that that's the overall point here. I think a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons need to realize that Caitlin Clark is good for the WNBA, and let's all figure out how to get along. Just like you could say in so many avenues of American life these days in 2024. But we're going to go to something that's much easier to talk about. 2 basketball teams squaring off. Finals are just around the corner.
Welcome to the Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are here. We have an NBA Finals, but of course, on the eve of the Finals, we have to talk about a $76 billion deal that has now. Rod, have you heard? Yes, Rod has heard. Rod is wearing his NBA on NBC hat. Of course he is, because he is amazing. He's also wearing a nice Seth Rollins shirt. Chris King does not know what a television is. It's like radio with pictures. Yes, I have made the joke before when the NFL signed their deal, but it's still funny to me, and that's all that matters. It looks like we have ESPN, we have NBC, and we have Amazon. Gentlemen, is that going to be too much, or are we okay? Chris King, you okay with having it on 3 different stations like that? Like we've had it.
I mean, well, Amazon's not getting my money, so I'll never watch those games.
Okay. Amazon's never getting Chris's money. I think we struck a chord. Rod, thoughts?
I think it's absolutely essential that the NBA have the deal with Amazon because Amazon works in the way that I think we are moving, right? Amazon can have a game on a Thursday night, a Wednesday night, a Friday night, whatever night, and they can have the jersey of said team. They can have the Second City edition jersey. They can have official team shorts, right? They can have bobbleheads, you know what I mean? They can have all that different stuff. They can even send you a link to how to subscribe to the team's, RSN that has just their games. You can get the link to sign up for NBA League Pass. I mean, there's just going to be so many different ways that the NBA will be able to track its users better to be able to better serve advertisers, which in a world of diminishing viewers is king, right, Jimmy? Like a lot of people have questions about how the NBA can be losing viewers year after year, but their deal continues to go up and up. And I think the simple answer to that is there's not a lot of inventory these days that people care about. And we can make an argument that no one cares about a regular season NBA game. Of course they don't. But you know what a regular season NBA game is? A little bit more important than the 45th different time you can run National Treasure by Nicolas Cage on your cable channel. You know what I mean? So like it gives you a little bit of relevancy and something you can sell to advertisers.
Sure. Anyone wants to jump in on YouTube, Facebook, or X, just throw a comment in the chat and we will definitely bring that up for you. But yeah, you've got to remember, Chris, you may not know this because it's on the internet and we barely got you on here, but Amazon doesn't have to worry about preempting anything. Okay. When the dog show is on USA, Raw always went out. That happened for like 2 decades, right?
Okay, let's just
Amazon can put them both on at the same time. It doesn't really matter.
Let's just call it for what it is. Amazon is not doing anything else but cornering a specific niche market of NBA fans and keep them on their website longer so they are more likely to then buy something else on that website. All right. It's just like a gas station. The gas isn't there to make the money. It's just to get the people inside the store to buy other shit.
But if that's where we're going in TV viewership, then God bless the NBA for being there. That's what I say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what it is. That's why NBC has it. It's not they're going to lose money on the NBA, but it's the advertising that they get on other shows before and after. It's more viewers. That's what they want. Now that's an old model. We have an old and a new model here too. So that's kind of interesting. ESPN doing the same thing there. TNT loses it. I'm not that worried. You know, when I go on YouTube TV, I just click on NBA and all the games show up. I can pick whichever I want wherever it's playing. That really doesn't matter. Obviously, this time I'd probably have to go to Amazon for that. But I'm not too concerned about TNT. I know, Rod, you probably have some thoughts on the big show on TNT.
Well, we all love Inside the NBA, but my question is, do we just love Inside the NBA as an idea, right? And how many of us actually tune in? Because I know I love the NBA probably more than the average guy. I would tell you I love Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal, but I'm not a fervent viewer of that show. Frankly, it's just on too late. I have to go to bed, all of the above. So I'm not consistently watching Inside the NBA. When I catch them between games and at half times, I think that they're better than anything that ESPN throws out there. But I can't say that I'm going to cry for a guy like Shaquille O'Neal, who has plenty of money, a guy like Charles Barkley, who has plenty of money, and a guy like Kenny Smith, who even is not as famous as Charles Barkley or Shaq, but he has plenty of money too. I'm not going to cry for any of those guys. They're going to give me a pregame show that I'm still not going to watch. So as much as I have nostalgia for how great those guys were once, I don't necessarily think it makes me sad here in the present day.
Chris?
I probably watch as many clips on YouTube of those guys joking around or roasting each other more than any other pregame show, commentary duo, or anything else in any sport. All right. Like these guys are hilarious together. You get plenty of, I mean, where else are you going to get gems like the women in San Antonio from Charles Barkley? Or they gave up. They don't get to go to Cancun. They got to go to Galveston with that dirty ass water. I mean, where are we going to get these again, Rod? All right. You telling me you're not going to miss this?
Well, but again, I think Rod, you bring up Rod's point though. On YouTube, on Instagram, on X, all that, the clips you're watching, is that worth it to a TNT, an ESPN, an Amazon to pay these guys when they know you're not going to get as many viewers watching the actual show, but on social media, does that translate into dollars, right, Rod?
Well, the thing I'd say too is, do I actually care, Chris, if like in the little left-hand corner of the clip that I see on Twitter or X, however you want to refer to it, says NBC or Amazon or TNT? I don't really care. I'm just tuning in for what Charles Barkley has to say. So if somebody else is going to pay Charles Barkley to talk about the NBA, I'm probably still going to listen to it.
See, if you watch on YouTube and you're getting the official clips, then they are making money, all right, because those are monetized, and that is a way for them. We've talked about it already on this show. This is a new way to watch NBA, right? This is something that is important to me as an NBA fan. Like, I don't get to always stay up late and try to catch that. I don't have cable, so, like, it's even harder for me. So, like, I need those types of clips. Like I need that enjoyment. That's part of what makes the NBA fun for me.
Okay.
But Round Ball Rock, Chris, Round Ball Rock is coming back with NBC getting the rights. Come on, John Tesh, let's go.
Speaking of
That
NBA,
doesn't sell it.
Let's talk about the NBA championship between the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks. So many storylines. They're going to love all of this. Kyrie coming back, going against the Celtics, Kyrie and Luka, that dynamic against Brown and Tatum. Right now, Rod, the Celtics, your Celtics, are minus 225 against the Mavericks, who are plus 188. How you feeling right now as the odds-on favorite to win the championship?
I feel great. Give me the Celtics in 5. Give me the Celtics in 5 here.
Right?
I think what we are seeing right now, Jimmy, is a clear laying out of the problem with modern sports culture. Okay. We have zero memory, zero. We are always moving on to the next. We are always future casting. We are always dealing with the thing we saw the night before. So I think everybody right now has the catnip of, oh my God, Dallas, how good do they look? They beat the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves beat the Nuggets. Look at Dallas. Oh my goodness, how good are they? They beat Oklahoma City. Luka Doncic. Could he be better than Jokic? We're so wrapped up in that, and we don't realize that what the NBA history teaches us is a team like this Boston Celtics team wins the championship. Okay. They were unquestionably the best team in the regular season. They have tons of postseason experience. They have the scars. They made the trades to change their team up to get better on the delinquencies they had the year before. And if a team like Dallas, with the record they had and the seed they had, it will be like the third biggest upset in NBA history. So I just think people are falling under the guise of Luka's playing so well right now that the Mavericks are clearly better than the Celtics. No, they are not. Luka might be the best player on the court, but the Celtics have 5 to 6 players that any other team in the NBA would absolutely salivate over having. And if they stay healthy, this Celtics team is ready to win. And they have lost 2 games this postseason. I'm sorry that you can point out all the guys that were injured on the other side, but the Celtics have lost 2 games and their scoring differential is historic. This team is really, really good, and people have slept on them.
Chris, are you one of those people who fell for the Luka's playing very well, and you think the Mavericks have a shot here? Who you got? How do you think the finals are going to go?
Okay, so boy, there's a lot to unpack there, Rod. But first, let me start here. The NBA messed up. Why in the world are we waiting a full week
no question,
to start the finals? All right, they had
blame ESPN and ABC more than the NBA, please.
Okay,
but you're not wrong.
Okay,
yeah, you're right.
They had a perfect opportunity to have game 1 on a Sunday night. Perfect time to get as many viewers as possible in a primetime slot to start off the series. That was the way to go. They messed up. We're waiting a week. The average fan that was probably excited a week ago has to be reminded now.
I
all
also have
right?
to point out they wait 2 weeks to play the Super Bowl now, and people don't really care about that. Somehow
No,
100 million
no.
people still tune in for that.
Well,
I do. I did
No.
care about that.
I agree with Chris on this one because, and you may as well, Rod, but I agree with Chris because the NBA was kind of hot there for a minute. And then the last couple of games, it was kind of boring. The last couple series, excuse me, last
Fine,
couple series.
ESPN and ABC want to sell to their advertisers that the finals is this date through this date. They
Yeah, they
said
do.
it. The NBA
They do.
had very little to do with it. You're
They
not
do.
wrong, Chris. I would love for them to start it a while back too, but it just is what it is. ESPN and ABC pay the money. They set the date. Bam.
So, Chris, going back to my original question,
Okay,
sir,
so let's go.
who
Let's
you
go
got?
back. So, one thing that we've always been told, and we all know as sports fans, the playoffs are a different season. It's a whole new season in the playoffs. All
Mhm.
right. So let's not go crazy and talk about how great Boston was in the regular season. All right. Yes, they were the best team in the NBA, but this is a new season. All right. And in this season right now, I don't know if they're the best team in the NBA, let alone the best team in these finals. So, like, I'm not sold on Boston going to win in 5 or even win, because I remember a time when there was a historically great offense, had a historic great run in the postseason. Definitely by far the best team in the NBA. And they lost in the finals to the best player on the court. And I'm talking about those Golden State Warriors losing to
Ooh.
LeBron and the Cavs. Who was on those Cavs team, Rod? I can't remember exactly. That's right. It was your boy Kyrie Irving. Mavs in 6.
Okay, so Chris was one of those people. I think this is going to go 6. I do think it's going to go 6. I think the Celtics will win if Porzingis plays. I think it's going to be a pretty good series, but I think Porzingis will get it there. If Porzingis does not play, I think it might go 7. I still think the Celtics will win. So I do well, you know what? My NBA picks are a little bit better than my NFL picks, Rod. So we've got a chance here. We got a chance to be okay. But I loved Luka, but here's the thing. No one has had the defense that the Celtics can throw on Luka and Kyrie. They're probably going to throw it more at Kyrie than Luka and just let Luka have his 35. That's fine. But it's the other players, the PJ Washingtons, that they are now going to have a good defender on. Daniel Gafford, Lively, all those players are going to have good defenders on them where they didn't necessarily have the right matchups against the Timberwolves, Rod.
I'm not necessarily arguing that regular season dominance means a team is going to win. I'm just more speaking to NBA history, just proportionately speaks to teams that are that good and have the stats that the Celtics have behind them tend to win, and teams that have the stats that this Mavericks team has behind them tend to lose. That's why they would be the 3rd biggest upset in the history of the NBA to win the finals. But Chris, let me ask you this question. Would you feel better or worse about the Celtics if, let's say, they lost 0 games on the way to the finals? Or would you feel better about them if they lost 5 or 6 games on the way to the finals? Like, which way would you feel better about them? Because basically they've done exactly what they were supposed to do up until this point.
Yeah, see, that's the issue, Rod. They wouldn't have been able to do anything different, win more, lose more, anything this year. All right. The problem with the Celtics is they've been this good for a lot of years. They should have been in this situation before more times than just once with this group, like core group of guys. All right. They have been a historically great team that has consistently underperformed every single year. Until that changes, I don't have that faith.
Is
Rod,
it underperforming though? We talk about this a lot, right? Like only one team's going to win the championship, right? Like we love to put all these teams up against a barrier of win the championship is the only success you can have. But guess what? That's so ultimately not fair because only one team is going to win the championship.
You are
Don't
a
you think?
Celtics fan. You have more NBA championships than every other franchise in the league
Except one. We're tied with one.
except
kind of.
one. But take every other team in the league and add them together, and you're probably not as many as the Celtics. All right. So the Boston Celtics fan
But they haven't won a
expect-
championship in 27
does
years, Chris.
expect okay, but your fans are fanatics, just like the Hoosier
Yes.
fans are, right? We aren't happy unless we're winning a national championship. If we're not competing, we want
We
to
haven't been
fire
happy in a long
everybody.
time.
Yes, same way with Boston. You guys haven't been happy in a long time, and you're not happy unless you win championships. All right, you are a championship city, Boston. You want championships, and if you don't win a championship, that's a failure. Blame the Patriots if you want to blame somebody besides Boston
Wow.
Celtics. I mean, between the Celtics and the Patriots, like you guys have done nothing but win, and that's what you are
I'm
expected
not a
to
Patriots
do.
fan. I just want to throw that out there real quick in case some folks are tuning in and like thinking that I'm a Patriots fan for some reason because of Chris's eloquent monologue there. As eloquent as it was, I'm not a Patriots fan, so I could care less what Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and all those football teams did over all those years. But the Celtics are certainly a team that I pull for. I don't have a better explanation other than when I was a kid, Larry Bird was a boy that played for them, and I was a boy from Indiana that loved basketball, and so they were my favorite team. I've just pulled for them all of these years. Loved Paul Pierce, loved Danny Ainge, loved Kevin McHale. You know what I mean? Loved D Brown, right? Come on, let's pump it up and win the slam dunk contest. That was a highlight for my Celtics for a while. So
They
I
got
just
Brad
think
Stevens
people
in the
are
front office.
sleeping. Well, that's fine. But I just think people are sleeping on the Celtics. I got the Celtics in 5. I really do. Like, I think the Mavericks are great. And I want to say that it is not a failure for the Mavericks for losing this championship. I think Chris
No.
is probably right that it's a failure for the Celtics to not win this championship. But I also want to point out that, like, any other NBA team would kill to have the level of consistency the Celtics have had the last 5 to 6 years. So, you know, I want my team to be that good, but if they lose, I'll be mad. So I agree with Chris, but I also think the Mavericks aren't mad if they lose. So it's like, what's the right standard here?
Yeah, and I kind of like this to when the Bulls finally won their first championship. They had to go through the Pistons, and they kept getting beat and getting beat and getting beat. New York was tough in there as well. Finally, they were able to go over over that hump, and I think that would, you have to learn as a team. They have had a decent amount of turnover, but the core, the two main people have been there for a very long time.
You're so right, Jimmy. Here's where we're
You
at.
know?
Here's where we're at. Okay. In the story that will be written about Luka Doncic's career 25 years from now, okay, this year's NBA Finals will be an early chapter about how Luka had to take his licking and learn what it really took to lead the Mavericks back and get a championship because they were facing a historically great Boston Celtics team. That's how this will be written years from now. Book it. I just said it.
I remember another Dallas player who was going up against a historically great team one
Let's
year. And
go. Let's go.
I believe that was against Miami, and who was? Oh, that was Dirk Nowitzki, and I believe Dallas won that one too. So
They did.
That's fine. You can talk about all the history you want. The other thing I want to point out here is I had one wavering about the Celtics all year long, one and one only. And that was a team that the Celtics no longer have to beat. Okay. By the grace of God, the Denver Nuggets were knocked out by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Thank you, Ant Edwards. Thank you, Rudy Gobert. Thank you, Karl Anthony Towns. That was the only worry I had for my Celtics. They are going to cruise to this championship. You heard it here from Rod on the Fast Break, on Balls and Brew, on the Morganino Podcast Network, all of the above. That's what we are.
boy, he is trying hard to like remove that jinx he put on himself in the Celtics at the beginning of the season, isn't he?
He is, but he's also, I think he's kind of right. I have Jason Tatum getting the NBA Finals MVP here. I think this is his turn. He said he's a little nervous. I like that. Like those butterflies. I think Tatum's getting the MVP. Chris, I'm assuming you think that Luka will be getting the MVP?
Yeah, it's going to be Luka.
And then Rod.
Give me Drew Holiday winning the Finals MVP in an Andre Iguodala-esque effort where he just does so many things on the court, it is impossible to deny him the championship trophy.
Dark horse candidate.
Rod, if you were to bet $5 on Drew Holiday winning the MVP, do you know how much money you would win if he got?
I'm going to guess around $675.
$500. $500. 1,000 to 1.
Yeah.
Or 100
Yeah,
to 1.
there you go. I might do that. I'm telling you, he was honestly, I know the vote was 5-4 Brown Tatum in the Eastern Conference Finals, but if there was a third person for the Celtics that could have won it, it was Drew Holiday. He makes so many of those great plays. And if Kyrie gets stoned out a little bit, like I think he might, for my Celtics to win in 5, Drew Holiday will probably be a huge person responsible for that. And we all remember Andre Iguodala got a bunch of votes for shutting down LeBron James and won himself a Finals MVP.
Is Holiday going to be on Kyrie or Derek White?
I think it'll be a little bit of both. It'll be a combination, but I think if Kyrie sort of gets shut down and doesn't have a great series, I think people will look to Holiday.
By the way, Chris, Luka right now is plus 210 to win MVP. Kyrie Irving is plus 1,800. The next Maverick on the list is at plus 5. No.
Derek Lively. It's Derek Lively, isn't it?
Derek Jones Jr.
Really?
Yes. Derek Jones Jr.
I'd put Derek Lively as the third most.
You put $5 on Derek Jones Jr. He wins the MVP. You're taking home $2,500. So,
Jimmy, let's do 45 seconds before we close on if we think the Lakers are making a good decision by hiring a podcaster as their next NBA head coach.
Oh, we want to announce that now? Okay. Rod has accepted the head coaching position with the Los Angeles Lakers, and we are so excited. Still no one is going to listen or watch our show, even though we have the freaking coach of the Lakers on it.
That's right.
But that's okay.
That's right.
We do this for fun, Chris. Chris,
I think we've proven tonight that Dominic Mysterio listens to Yeah We Know.
That's a valid point. He does. Chris, JJ Redick's going to be the coach of the Lakers. What the hell's going on?
I guess if you do get your face on TV and seem like you know what you're talking about, you can get yourself a pretty good paying job.
Rod, I will just say this for you. JJ Redick is not signing free agents. JJ Redick does not have a lot of money into two people who had their most healthy seasons in a while together last year, and that got them into the play-in. They're going to have to get some kind of a third star, but if they get a third star, then your bench is even more depleted. I don't understand. It's not JJ Redick. It wasn't Darvin Ham. A little bit of Darvin Ham. It's the players around LeBron and AD. You've got to get players, and you can't do that as a coach. I don't know.
Jimmy, I'll say this. Beware, JJ, of Byron Scott. Okay. Do we all remember what happened to Byron Scott? He got hired to be the Cleveland Cavaliers coach the year after LeBron bolted town and went to the Lakers. All right. And things for the Cavs were absolutely 100% terrible there. Or maybe I have my timelines wrong. Maybe he was immediately after LeBron bolted to Miami. Either way, he took over coaching a team that he thought LeBron might coach, and then LeBron bolted, and it was a bad situation. And I'm telling you right now, Jimmy, there's a bunch of winds blowing that say the Lakers are going to hire JJ, and they're going to draft Bronny, and LeBron's coming back. But LeBron is technically a free agent right now. I really think there's a possibility LeBron James plays on a different team next year. So beware, JJ, of taking that job if he happens to be listening to the Morganino Podcasting Network.
And that has been the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris say thank you for listening.
Goodbye, Internet.